double check that we're recording. Brilliant. So, start off this webinar, we're going to talk a little bit about the Academies sector. So, the Academies programme was originally launched by the 1997 to 2010 Labour government and was subsequently adopted and extended by successive Conservative administrations to its current form today. It is an England-only policy with education delivered in Scotland and Wales according to their own devolved arrangements. If you're happening to be joining us from any other nation outside of England, do drop me an email at the end and I will support you into finding a similar suitable voluntary role in your area. At present, there are around 2,500 academy trusts in England, and over 1,400 of these contain more than one school, and they are known as multi-academy trusts or MATs. And this number is continuing to grow year on year. In total, there are around 10,000 schools with academy status, but this is not an even spread, with some areas seeing far greater levels of conversion to academy status than others. Many schools opt to convert to academy status voluntarily, while some are directed to do so by the DfE due to their outcomes, and these will often be merged into an existing academy trust, which may have capacity to help improve focus areas. Those schools that are elected to become academies may join an existing trust in order to gain the benefits brought by economies of scale and also to increase insulation to some common but real challenges such as limitations in finances and resources. Where a school operates on its own, it is known as a single academy trust, and typically a multi-academy trust will have anything from 2 to 50 schools and budgets ranging from single-digit millions to more than a quarter of a billion in the largest cases. The funding comes directly from government through a mechanism called a funding agreement, and trusts are required to decide how, where and when to spend that money while ensuring transparency and openness. And this is one of the main differences between academies and locally maintained schools, is that they do receive their funding directly from central government. Where a school or the trust within which it resides is determined to be failing, the DfE may terminate the funding agreement, meaning a school is moved into a new trust to arrest a decline or to improve standards. In some of the more complex cases, we may work with trusts to help completely overhaul governance and target specific issues that may have contributed to this. However, these cases are relatively uncommon, and most roles to which we recruit are far more straightforward, albeit bringing their own challenges, their own priorities, specific to the trust that we're working with, or even to the community that that trust serves. However, at all times, we communicate any particular challenges that a trust may be facing when sharing opportunities with yourselves, the potential candidates, and realise too that some people might actually be looking for a challenge and looking for a complex case to help maybe turn around a trust in need of support. So that is a broad overview of the academy sector. Again, if you have any questions about the academy sector, you can ask that at the end, and I will do my best to support. So, what is the trustee role then within those academies and within education more broadly? The trustee role in education is unique in that individuals operate both as a trustee of the charity, of the trust, and a non-executive director of the company listed on Companies House and subject to company law. In governance structure terms, the trustee role sits near the top of the structure with responsibility for all of the schools within the trust. More on this in a moment, and I have a visual for those like myself who are more of a visual learner. As a non-executive director or NED, the role is very much eyes on, hands off in nature, requiring the trustee board to be engaged in what is going on, but removed from the operational aspects of the delivery and executions of school life. Though often the trustees are invited or required to visit and experience on-the-ground activities or have a close affinity or link with a school, the location of the trust or the broader geographic area that that trust serves. So just to sort of put that more straightforwardly, the role of a trustee is not operational in the sense of in the classroom or day-to-day within a learning environment. Trustees contribute by defining the strategy of the trust and mapping the priorities for the short, medium, and long term. This involves and requires the ability to see the bigger picture over a long term and also to hold to account the leadership within the trust, ask potentially challenging questions, and ensure a good level of scrutiny. We expect every individual that we help to appoint to a trustee role to demonstrate and enact the Nolan principles of public life that you can see listed here, which are selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, leadership. And these underpin the work that we do as a charity. While the trustees set the strategic direction of the trust, they ultimately do report to another group. These are the members of the trust. This is a much smaller board, usually comprising 3 to 5 people experienced in governance, and this is akin to the stakeholder role in a corporate setting. And they can appoint and remove trustees and also the trust's articles of association, among other key responsibilities. Members are referred to the DFE as sort of guardians of governance. So that is the trustee role in a nutshell. And as I mentioned, this is a more visual representation of what I've just outlined. So as you can see, the Board of Trustees sits near the top of the governance structure, with them overseeing, particularly within a multi-academy trust, the various institutions that sit within the trust, but also they themselves have the oversight, have oversight by the trust members board. As I said, this is just one visual representation of how it may look. Some academy trusts may operate slightly differently, but the main thing to bear in mind is how such structures really lead to healthy and robust governance arrangements, to ensure that there are separation or layers, so that each different level has somebody who can be asked of the right questions and ensure that accountability is maintained while ensuring efficiency and appropriateness in decision making at all levels. So what are a trustee's main responsibility? We touched on that a little bit when we were talking about the role of a trustee. So just to delve into that into a little bit more detail, trustees are there to enable their trust and the schools within it to run effectively and provide excellent education and opportunities for young people. The trust board will collectively be responsible for defining and delivering a strategy. And so the mindset and approach of its individuals should be one of strategic leadership and big picture thinking. This also encompasses ensuring the trust has a clear vision and an ethos, both of which can be really important details for prospective trustees when considering whether a role we share is right for them. The financial aspect of the trust board role are critical, and while a well-balanced board will always have a variety of skills, including finance, accounting and audit, the responsibility for the financial performance of the trust is spread across all trustees and not confined to those for whom this is a more familiar professional area. Good financial management and significant budgetary responsibility is often a feature of the professional experiences of many candidates who register with us, and we will usually identify opportunities where the budget of the trust aligns to the level of management you're used to. Thirdly, but absolutely not least, is holding senior leaders to account for the educational performance of the Trust's schools and the outcome of its pupils, as well as management of the staff and workforce. As with the finance consideration, we don't require or expect any trustee to be an expert in education or to have pre-existing knowledge of the sector. So that also includes you do not have to have gone through a UK education. You do not have to have children or ever have had children within the UK education system, or as just mentioned, you don't have to have worked within education either on a strategic or a operational level either. Often, it can actually be helpful to have no preconceived notions and to come in from a different sector, bringing different ideas, ways of thinking, ways of working, etc. What we do ask for is willingness to explore the data, to ask challenging questions, and to always ensure direct and transparent accountability. These are the things that we consider the most essential. So what are we talking about in terms of commitment? These are some of the most common questions that we get asked. So time per month. Typically, a trustee role will require around 8 hours of time per month. Though not all of this is spent in meetings or on calls. And this can vary depending on whether you take on additional roles such as the chair or any committee positions you might want to assume too. And those sorts of extra commitments, such as becoming a chair or a vice chair, while we do recruit for those, you will always be told in advance whether or not this is an opportunity that involves such a commitment. Likewise, with any sort of committee assignments that the trust are looking for us to help recruit to, this will always be upfront, so that you will be able to make informed decisions on whether or not the commitment matches your availability. Most boards will meet once per half term or so, which means about 6 meetings per year, but that also shifts depending on the trust, but this is a good ballpark. You'll also, of course, need to factor in time to prepare for meetings, visit schools and report back on your findings, as well as getting involved in any additional planning or strategy days too. We also would recommend that to be considered when considering such a role, is that there will be some work outside of meetings, particularly in terms of preparation. The term of office is usually 4 years. So if you've been a governor in the past, you might, or are currently a governor, this is the same term of office, 4 years. So it is quite a long-term role. It can take a while to get to know the trust and therefore to start to see the impact that you're having, as well as, or perhaps because of, building relationships across the trust and with your fellow trustees. So yes, it is 4 years for a term of office. You can, of course, continue on subsequently if you would like. But one of the great things about becoming a trustee is that while a term of office might seem quite long term, the impact of your decisions that you make or help the trust to make in years 1 and 2, you can see bearing fruit in years 3 and 4 of your time on the board. And that's one of the great pieces of feedback we get from volunteers a few years on after working with them, is they're beginning to see that impact firsthand. However, we always flag that this is a voluntary role, and the commitments that you make, a commitment that any volunteer makes is, of course, and the time that they spend is, of course, very valuable. But your personal circumstances can change, so you may have to leave the role before the end of your term, or, as I've said, you may find that you love it so much you want to, in the future, take on additional responsibilities, put yourself forward for one of those chair roles, for example, or for a second, third term on the board. It is one of the great things about being a volunteer within this setting is that it's growing, it evolves all the time, trusts change, they grow, and there's different people within leadership. It's a fantastic chance to develop those specifically board level skills And as the trust changes and grows and you see young people move through the trust, it's really exciting to be a part of that. And a lot of volunteers do continue on after their term of office. However, if such circumstances arise, whether it be work, whether it be personal, where you can no longer commit to the role, then that is also absolutely fine, and you can resign the role if needed. Travel. So when you apply, you can tell us how far would be practical to travel for a role. The larger area that we can search for vacancies, the quicker we're likely to be able to find you one. And we always recommend you think hard about this. The right role and the one where you could make the biggest difference may mean traveling a little bit further and maybe being a little bit more open-minded about this may mean you can find different opportunities, or opportunities that are identified for you might come along a little bit sooner. We do, however, note that trusts are increasingly putting remote and hybrid meetings into their calendars to help accommodate trustees' circumstances. So that might also be a possibility in terms of attending hybrid. So maybe 50% of the meetings you may attend virtually, or even the opportunity for remote, where you would be 100% long distance or not in person, so to speak. But again, these are the sorts of minute details that we source for presenting you with any sort of opportunity. So you will know from the get-go, what is the meeting structure? Will it be all in person? Is there scope for hybrid, or actually are they even looking for somebody specifically remote? So all of that information will be provided to you every time that we share a vacancy. Lastly, just to touch on liability, there can be misconceptions around personal liability. The only way a governor or trustee could be found personally liable is if they were found to have acted criminally, for example, negligently or fraudulently. Academy trusts are companies limited by guarantee, and that is typically limited to £10 of liability. The majority of trusts will take out directors' cover, typically through the DfE's risk protection insurance, meaning that there is cover for the individuals. As mentioned earlier, all trustees are required to act in accordance with the Nolan principles, so we would expect all actions to be taken in good faith. So our advice and guidance is, as long as you act genuinely, with honest intentions or motives, in the interest of the trust, then there is nothing to worry about around liability. However, should you progress to the stage of speaking directly to a trust, it's definitely the right question to ask in relation to the trust's own arrangements and cover for directors. So how will you benefit as an individual? You will develop skills and experience and expertise from the wealth of opportunities that being a trustee can offer you. This is both professionally and personally. Your pre-existing knowledge and expertise, background and experience may influence this, but there's always something to learn from exposure to a new sector, environment, and context. You have the opportunity to develop experience across a range of skills that you may not otherwise be exposed to in your normal role. Our professional developmental research found that by undertaking a voluntary role like this, confidence increased, performance was enhanced in the workplace, and there was reported growth in preparation, flexibility, and agility, analyzing performance data and KPIs, financial skills, and value for money. If you're at a relatively early stage of your professional journey, you can benefit by gaining board level experience and making decisions at that board level, as well as having the opportunity to network and collaborate with others in your community and beyond, which is really great at helping to broaden your perspective. Every person in this virtual room has a unique skill set to offer a board. I and my colleagues work with dozens of volunteers every single day. I am always seeing someone new who has joined us as a volunteer, and I've never seen the same skill set or background twice. So everybody really truly is unique in their own professional journey. And so whether your skill set lies in finance, in HR, risk, law, fundraising, marketing, you're an educationalist, you have a background in mental health or well-being, or whatever it is that you have achieved so far on your professional journey, there are going to be schools and trusts which are in need of your specific skill set and your commitment as a volunteer. And so really this is a fantastic opportunity to give back to a community that can serve thousands of young people and make such a material difference. As I've mentioned, you'll be able to see the impact of your decisions over the course of your term of office. Children that you can help to support can leave education with a better experience of learning, higher aspirations, improved life chances, all because of the work that you and your fellow trustees put into this. So it's one of our favourite parts of the job to receive feedback, such as the above, from volunteers. So this is just a piece of feedback that we received not too long ago, earlier this year, and it reads, "I really appreciate the work Governors for Schools is doing, providing a link between professionals and schools for a mutually beneficial partnership. As much as it is a volunteering opportunity, I've had some perspective change and sharpened some of my skills." So we are always very much aware that a lot of the impact will be on young people, but also will be on yourselves as well as our volunteers. And partly we recognise this by not just finding you a trustee vacancy, but also engaging with you with a lot of training and support, both before and during your time as a trustee. We do more than just find you a role. We want you to feel confident and to be effective in your trustee position as quickly as possible. Therefore, we have a range of free e-learning modules on a number of topics to introduce you to key elements of the role, and this is all available online. We also do hold regular webinars, not just of this nature, but also learning opportunities with experts who you can question and you can learn from. We also do have various different learning opportunities, such as giving all of our volunteers 12 months free access to online resources and knowledge banks from Governor Hub Knowledge, which was formerly known as the Key. We do also flag that trusts will also usually conduct their own induction processes once you join, which may include introductory meetings, but will also often include training, information sharing, providing you with all of the essential reading and documents to get you up to speed with a particular trust, to help guide you through the onboarding process. One of the things that I've noticed when talking to trusts is that they are also operating a lot of the times now a buddy scheme, so a more experienced trustee supporting a new member of the board as well. So not only do you have a bank of opportunities with Governors for Schools from the time you submit an application to us, but also it is really a good part of the sector that they also have their own internal training and opportunities for development for their new trustees as well. So this visual that you can see is of becoming a trustee. So it's another learning opportunity available via our website that lays more groundwork for what a trustee role will involve. It's great at myth busting. It explains in a lot more engaging detail than I could ever around the responsibility, commitment, and requirements of being a trustee in a little bit more detail. We try and make all of our learning concise and informative, as well as completely online, so it's available to you wherever you may be. And this learning really explains what an academy trust is, how they're structured, what the role and responsibilities of said trustees are. It also will delve further into questions you might have around suitability checks and liability. It also does include recommendations further reading. So it's great and an ideal introduction. Highly recommend for all new volunteers who join us on the trustee pathway to take part in this learning as well. So one of the questions that we get a lot is this sort of governor versus trustee question. So we've included this slide here so that everybody is kept abreast of what the difference is, because oftentimes at the end people would ask this question. So we've added this slide in response to that. So in governance structure terms, trustees sit at board level and are responsible for all of the schools in an academy trust, as compared to governors who are responsible for individual schools. Just a word on the governor role, which can, of course, often be conflated with that of being a trustee. It is similar in some ways. A governor position is strategic rather than operational. However, governors have a particular responsibility for a local school, and oftentimes they will just be focused on one local school. So you can have governors, or they're sometimes called you can have governors within the academy system who look after one particular school. But a trustee will have oversight over multiple schools within a trust. So whether that trust has 2 schools up to 50, as I've said, that is where the trustee's level of responsibility sits. Okay. So what are the next steps then? So next it is over to you. We are completely online, so everything that you do with us will be done either via our website, as I've said, or we will communicate directly with you via email. You can submit an application. As you can see here, we have a dedicated website, our Trustee Recruitment Service.org.uk, but you can also access the governorsforschools.org.uk site and be directed to our application. It's quick and easy. It's all done online. We ask that individuals create a profile outlining their skills and experience, and their trusts and travel preferences, including a personal statement that demonstrates your passion and commitment to improving educational standards through good governance. We ask that everybody completes this because this is part of what we share with a trust when we find you a suitable role that you might like to proceed with. So we don't, for example, collect CVs or anything of that nature. We do ask that all information you wish to share is done on our online form, which we can then send to trusts in order to gauge whether or not they would like to proceed with your application. Something we do as an additional to this is, as I've said, our e-learning. You can access all of that once you have made an account, and you can go on the webinar library and other resources. They're really fantastic once you've submitted an application and we're in the process of validating your application and then subsequently searching for a vacancy to bring you up to speed with trusteeship. So once you've submitted your application, that would be my next recommendation. As we find opportunities within your area, your contact within our Trustee Recruitment Service, so either myself or my colleague Danielle, will share them with you to discuss suitability. So we will send you the information about the trust and what they're looking for, so you're able to make an informed decision about whether or not you feel like you would like to explore this opportunity. After such opportunities are identified, for the first time that you share interest about a vacancy, we ask that you have a call to discuss your application with one of our advisors. So we're very, very fortunate to have some fantastic support at Governors for Schools with some of our advisors who are really fantastic and experienced individuals in the education field. And what they do to help support your application is they will sit down with you for around 45 minutes and they will discuss your background, your application, and they will write a recommendation about your suitability to be a trustee, which we will share with the trust. Now, you only have to do this once, and you don't have to redo this every time you show interest in a vacancy, but it is just an extra layer that we have to send to potential vacancies to show that the level of experience and commitment that you have. We do work tirelessly. It is mine and Danielle's main area of work to identify roles for you to consider. But we do flag that this might be a quote unquote slow burn. We are in touch with you at regular intervals, so we will always be on hand to update you, to send additional information, to send training opportunities, while on the search for a suitable vacancy for you. We have a whole team who work in order to ensure that we have as many vacancies as possible to share with you, but it might not be immediately, depending on location, for example. So please bear with us as we continually search for new vacancies to share with you. So once we found a vacancy and you like the look of it, and you've also completed a call with one of our advisors, we will share your initial interest with the trust. So we do that for you. We act on your behalf, send over an application, which will include the recommendation by our advisor, as well as a digitized version of your application with us. So that will include, of course, your career, your experience, your motivation. If they're interested, they let us know, and we will put you in contact with the trust directly to get the ball rolling. Usually, this involves an initial chat with the trust about the role, followed by maybe a more formal interview with senior leadership of the trust. We are always on hand to support you right through this process. Once we introduce you to a trust, it does not mean that we're hands off. We will always be there to support you to ensure that the opportunity is successful, offering you support and guidance when needed. And of course, once you have reached the stage where you can let us know you've been appointed, is always a fantastic moment for us as well. We, as I said, are constantly looking for new vacancies. I took this snapshot this morning. So this is our vacancy board currently. It goes down a couple more rows, but trying to screenshot at that distance, you couldn't see any. So I thought I'll leave it to 2 rows so that you can see that we have a range of vacancies. So these we advertise externally as well, but we just to show you this, these are the sort of trusts that we're working with currently, and as I said, we work right across England to support trusts. As you can see, there's some here which are in the north, in the south, and even flagged where one has a remote opportunity as well. Okay, so as I mentioned, you can apply online. So you can go onto the governorsforschools.org.uk website and have a look at the banner along the top. You'll be able to see become a trustee. So all of that is on there, and the application can be made online. It then lands directly with either Danielle or myself, my colleague, who look after volunteers based on geographic location. So you'll be in touch with one of us. If you have any particular questions that you would like answered that you don't wish to ask as we wrap up this session, always feel free to email me. I'm on anthony.melia@governorsforschools.org.uk. If I can't help you, I will make sure to put you in contact with somebody within our team who can. So feel free to reach out. I know some people might prefer to ask questions via the email. And so that's really where we are wrapping up the presentation. We can open the floor to questions. I can see if you can use the Q&A function. But yes, take a moment to have a think about if you have any questions, and we'll get the ball rolling on answering them. Yes, we can run this session until on the hour, but if you need to leave for whatever reason, feel free to do so. Right, let me stop sharing this. There we go. Okay. Okay, thank you. Right, let me just get our Q&A. Okay, so we have a question here, which is what are the key factors to consider when choosing a trustee as currently I'm serving as a school governor. So just to clarify, is this, Dr. Verma, is this you, whether or not you want to be a trustee? Right, is that correct? Yes, okay, brilliant. So really what we would say in terms of whether you're choosing whether you to become a trustee, particularly if you're already a governor, firstly, obviously this won't apply to everybody, but there might be a few other people in this webinar who are currently governors, is firstly the commitment. If you wish to continue to be a governor alongside being a trustee, then I would recommend just double checking whether or not you have the capacity to be concurrently a trustee and a governor. One of the things that we often do get asked is whether or not you can be a governor and a trustee, and that is absolutely something that you can do. For me, I would say the first thing would be to consider whether the commitment, whether you have the time. Also, we do work with a lot of people who are governors who wish to become trustees, and that is absolutely fine. There is no sort of issue with becoming both or being both. It's really just down to whether or not you have the capacity, and we will obviously take on board past governors who wish to become trustees. If you've been appointed through us or found a role in your own in the past, we're happy to support anybody. So another question this time in the webinar chat. So I don't think everyone can see this. Okay, so we have a question on in terms of distance. So this individual is currently based abroad, but wants to know whether they can be a 100% distant member of the board. That is a question which is quite tricky to answer because it would require really the approval of the trust. So some trusts do have trustees who are abroad. I've met with some people who sit on a board while abroad, but that would be a question for individual trusts as well. But I would say generally most trusts would prefer somebody who could, at least during the introductory side, be available to meet with them, as well as to have somebody maybe more local. But by and large, we do have opportunities for remote opportunities, and so really it's dependent on the trust. Another question that we've just had through: are there any paid trustee positions? To my knowledge, no. Certainly through Governors for Schools, we do not host vacancies which are paid for. There are careers within governance, within the operational side of governance. So we work with a lot of governance professionals, for example, who work within trusts to support good governance. They are, of course, paid positions from the trust. But in terms of the trustee level, through Governors for Schools, we are a charity. So all of our volunteers are placed within voluntary non-paying roles. By and large, we say there is maybe scope for a trust to support in terms of expenses, but we say for our volunteers to approach the opportunity with the assumption that there will be no reimbursement or remittances from the role. But certainly a sort of wage or anything of that nature is not within the trustees that we recruit, is not an option. So another question around applying for vacancies are, should we apply to vacancies ourselves, so as volunteers, or wait until you will liaise between the role and us? So we don't host every trustee vacancy that there is. That's another thing to note. Trusts work with us voluntarily. They go through an onboarding process with us, just like volunteers, in order for us to host their vacancies and do recruitment for them. So we don't have a sort of complete database of every single trustee opportunity available. So we will always send you the vacancies that we have, which we think are a good match You can, of course, if you're a volunteer, flag to us opportunities that you might have found yourself. But if we don't have a link with that trust already and a vacancy, we can't really liaise between you. If there is a vacancy that you're interested in that we can of course do that for you. But in terms of applying for vacancies yourselves, if you were to do that outside of Governors for Schools, then you are more than welcome to do so, of course. But we wouldn't be able to sort of liaise in that circumstance. We have a process with trusts in order for them to have our volunteers referred directly to them from us. But we are trying to grow our trustee pool and our trustee vacancy pool all of the time. We're really, really lucky in terms of we have really fantastic members of staff who are trying to make sure that as many of those trustee vacancies are registered with us and are on our books. But there will be some who we don't have a working relationship with. And so it really depends on whether or not we have them. But this is a sort of conversation that we can have as volunteers between your volunteer and your partnership manager to see what we can do to support you to the best way that we can. Okay, so this is a good question in the Q&A box. Do you have a rough idea of how long the process takes from application to being appointment? Yes, it is, as you said, fully understand that it depends on the trustee availability. Yes, so if you were to put in an application, we cannot definitively say that within X number of weeks or X number of months that you would be sat on a trustee board. What we can say is that if you were to put in an application, we would begin the search to match you with a suitable vacancy. As soon as your application is validated, you would be within our pool. Volunteers who join in certain parts of the country, so for example, if you're based in London, might have a quicker match than somebody who is based in, say, the rural north of England, dependent, of course, on what your travel preferences are and the vacancies that we have. We are pretty split in terms of where vacancies are at the moment, actually, across England. So there is scope no matter where you are for a vacancy. I would say that if you, from putting an application with us to being appointed, if you consider it a sort of several months process, then that would sort of be a good frame of reference for you. Once you've joined, the search begins, but you can, of course, be referred to something straight away. It may take several weeks. It could take a couple of months. It really depends on what we have available, what matches you as well. In terms of once you're referred to a trust, again, I would say a sort of maybe a term in terms of time, 12 weeks or so from introduction to appointment would be the sort of ballpark that I would recommend to keep in your head, just so you know that it might take a couple of months from introduction with a trust to appointment. Again, that depends on things such as the availability of the time for the trust to meet and to formally interview you, the sort of paperwork process. So, for example, a DBS check, etc. So it might be a couple of months process, but there's a wealth of opportunities for you to do while awaiting the right match. Okay. So, any further questions? I'm aware that we are about 12 minutes out. So if anybody does need to leave or wants to get some of their time back, thank you for attending. Is there an opportunity to get connected to someone who have been through the process and is currently a trustee to better understand their experience of being a trustee? So currently we don't have a mechanism or a sort of process in-house for meeting with another GFS volunteer who has become a trustee. We do have and host case studies and testimonials on our website from individuals who have gone through our process before. So that is available for you to peruse. But we don't have currently set up a system where a volunteer joins us, a new volunteer, and they have a sort of buddy system or anything like that with a settled trustee volunteer that we have placed. But as I said, one of the things which I've picked up on, particularly actually in the last quarter, has been that a lot of trusts are either running, or when we ask them if they have it, are open to a buddy system. So part of what I would say, if you were really keen to speak to somebody who was a trustee who had been appointed either recently or had been on a board for a while, is during that initial conversation with the trust, you will know in advance whether or not they offer a buddy system, because we would have sourced that question for you. But asking whether there is scope to have a one-to-one or a sort of conversation with an existing member of the trust, maybe somebody who had joined in the last 6 or 12 months, something like that would be my recommendation. Currently, we don't have in place something in-house for that, but I will take that suggestion forward and feed it up the line, so to speak. So that might be something in the future that we can offer, but I think that's a really great suggestion, so I will take that forward. And thank you for attending as well. So if there's anybody else that would like to ask a question, feel free. I can, as well, just to I should have done this when I finished speaking, but I'll just put my email address into the chat box, just in case anybody would prefer to ask something a bit more privately on via email, or prefer to talk on email, that would be fine. If you have any further questions, that is my email address. This should be resent to you as a video as well, so you'll be able to revisit should there be anything that you want to recap. But yes, if there's no further questions, then I shall give you back some time ahead of 1 p.m. in case you have any other further meetings or you want to get a head start on your lunch. So thank you for attending. It's always wonderful to run events like these, and hope to see some of your names pop up in our new application list shortly. So again, thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.